the landlords. So at the end, basically, they are pushing the expats to take apartments and accommodation with a certain landlords because they get some benefits. I did in my past experience as a salary, as an employee, and this is why today I am an entrepreneur. I want to choose my client. I want to choose the people and the organization I help. I want to be sure that they want to do it for the right reason.
With that solution, right, what I've seen on the website, I came across one sheet which had 5 mistakes that can ruin your international mobility experience.
Expat partners, they don't realize that being an expat partner is a job by itself, where you acquire skills. You need to manage the logistic, manage the providers. As recruiters, we just need to be able to see it and to understand what it has brought. It's true, some recruiters, they don't care. Focus on this because the recruiters will like it, so that people don't waste energy in something that will not be necessarily recognized. Sometimes not taking any risk is already taking a risk.
Why that needs to be considered, why organization like with my Expat Compass needs to be considered, what you offer as part of your services. I think it's a big help for not just the expats, but also the companies, right?
Yes.
So you've worked with IT, startups, and even military services.
Yes.
What patterns or loopholes do you see across sectors in handling international mobility? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it in more than, now what we spoke was about more employees for their rights, but what about the companies? What about their loopholes?
I think the biggest challenge today for me is AI, because it will shape everything from scratch. Do we need this job position, or is AI able to perform the activity of the person? And I think at the end, we will reach a point where a lot of stuff will be managed by AI. But what matters the most, human connection, experience on the ground, people being technical, this is what will be sustainable, because AI will not be able to manage it. I think people need to realize that and to be already ready to manage this change through their work, because we cannot. For me, I feel that some people are trying to say, I don't want this. The world is not waiting for you. It will be like this. So you need to anticipate. So at the moment, HR organizations, they are making an assessment of their job position and how AI will affect the job position. And obviously, there will be termination, obviously, changes in the way we work. And I think everyone needs to be ready for that, because we need to be above this and more proactive, so that we are not being just totally, let's say, crushed by this going on in the coming year.
And this is something happening across, right? Not just international mobility.
Across industry, but it's very important for global mobility, because global mobility is mostly moving people having very niche and special skills to go somewhere else to bring value. And AI is changing that as well, obviously. Because now you can type a request on ChatGPT and get kind of answer. The real question is the answer right, yes or no?
Yeah.
We can still debate about that. But at the same point, I think that global mobility will remain, because we need to grow as people. And this is the best way. It's not using ChatGPT that you can really go by yourself. And we need people to be there locally. But obviously, it will shape and change a lot of things for global mobility. And they need to anticipate. Because maybe at the moment they are expat, but maybe at some point their position as an expat will be removed or changed.
Yeah. So when you're kind of doing this is part of your audit as well, right? What you're looking at as the company is what they need to change with the AI and without the expats.
All HR function is working on this at the moment.
Yeah.
And we are even for our own processes, including integrating AI into our processes. And the HR function will change. Some jobs will be removed, obviously, managed by AI. But yes, we are doing this work because it will be a question of being competitive at some point. If you you are being proactive about AI, you can remain competitive. If you are just waiting the last minute, I'm not sure you will. And it will be a question of survival at some point.
Can you take us through behind the scenes as to how you create the measurable results when you're helping companies through audit services?
So for me, because I have done this American certification, I'm very much business oriented. I don't think there is a good or wrong answer.
Okay.
And usually organizations, they really consider benchmark. They compare what other competitors or for global mobility packages, for example. For me, I don't like to rely on this because, for example, what's working for Google may not be working well for Facebook. And I think every organization has its own culture, its own product, its own strategy. And then from that, you deploy an HR strategy that is fitting this special formula. If we so in what I do, I always make this assessment. That's why I travel so much. Sometimes I'm going into the ground, into the country. Last July, I went to Indonesia because I'm working for a military project. I went first to Jakarta, and after I went to Pekan Baru. Pekan Baru, it's on the Sumatra island, and it's like a 1 million city, but no expat. And I had to go there to realize that I will have to build everything from scratch for expats. There is no housing for expats, no international school, nothing is available. And I had to investigate and to make kind of assessment so that now my recommendation for my client is that I don't believe that the families can live in Pekan Baru. They will have to live in Jakarta. We can settle the families in Jakarta. The consultants, they will be going, because the airbase will be in Pekan Baru. They can be going during the week in Pekan Baru, and they will have to come back over the weekend to Jakarta. It's a 2-hour flight, so that basically, yes, the kids can still get their education. Wife will be okay, because there is nothing to be done in Pekan Baru. I spent hours to try to find something. But even for wives, and spouse, no supermarket, nothing. So it's too tough for them. And it will not be a success to settle them in Pekan Baru. So my recommendation is for them to go to Jakarta, settle the families there, and the consultant will be based in Pekan Baru and then come back over the weekend. And such assessments, it means that you need to go to the ground and you need to really realize how it is. And this is what I do. And usually I come back to my client, I explain them, I help them to tailor solutions so that really they get the best approach for global mobility, because our purpose is to get people going, staying, performing, and being happy.
Sure. And for the company side?
This example was for the organization, but usually when I travel, last time when I traveled to Jakarta, I take the chance as well to connect with the expat communities, and I do some webinars or some kind of masterclass about some topics. Usually I contact the network, and I tell them, I am in Jakarta. Do you want to speak about any HR topic with your expat community? Let me know what you want to speak about. And then we set up the event and I do the event with them. So I'm always able to meet expats and to stay in touch with them as well.
That is such an interesting job that he did. It's an interesting profile for me. I'm starting to imagine you traveling from one place to the other, talking to the local guys, also auditing the place and finding out, oh, this is not for you. I mean, that is a big help, honestly.
It's a very special. It's a very special job, and I'm not sure that there are so many people that do this job the way I do. But it's okay.
This is not coming from the textbook, isn't it? Not from a website that you read and then you guide or advise it. It's really on the ground. You are there.
It's because I'm very lucky because my clients have understood that return over investment for this kind of topic means that they need to get someone reliable and knowing what an expat to go on the ground. And they are ready to invest in it. And they can see what I can bring. And the fact that, for example, in India, for my military client, all the resources stayed the full period of assignment. No one returned earlier. So it means for them, they don't have to pay for any, early termination cost, repatriation cost. There is no turnover. People are stable. The clients like the fact that people are stable. Everyone wins. But you still get some organizations that are more cost-cutting, and they don't realize that sometimes by cutting a cost, they create a significant loss, basically. There is still a lot to explain to this type of clients, but I cannot work for everyone. So at the moment, I'm focusing on my own client, but it's true. I'm very happy that I get very understanding clients about this.
All right. So for the audience, I would like to ask one insight, an example where HR made or broke an expat's experience and what that says about the power of behind the scenes.
Broke the experience of expats already on the ground or before they go?
Good question. Let's take the one who is on the ground, on the assignment.
Okay.
In the Western
I will take a local example I have heard of. But maybe some people will recognize it. It's a French organization. They are using a relocation provider for helping expats to find their accommodation in China. But basically, the relocation provider is not necessarily engaged. And let's say he has different interest and direct interest with the landlords. So at the end, basically, they are pushing the expats to take apartments and accommodation with a certain landlords because they get some benefits from getting the lease with this landlord. And the HR is aware of it. And they are not doing anything, even if it means that for the expats, they are just being presented the accommodation from a certain type of, let's say, with a certain interest.
Yeah.
And while they could get more tailored service and basically ideally get a relocation provider by their side and not making money on their back. So the choice of providers is as well very important. I manage a lot of relocation provider selection. And for me, it's always very important because as HR, we need to select the best people to accompany our expat to make their experience smoothest as possible. And if you just take the cheapest, usually it's not the best choice.
Of course, that also makes it very clear that if that thing broke it, the expat, the right partner.
Yes, it did, because at some point, some expats were not so happy about their accommodation.
Yeah.
They wanted to change. The relocation provider was saying, no, it's not necessary. And then the HR didn't want to spend too much time on this. And they said, no, let's keep it as it is. But at the end, the expats were so unhappy that they decided to move back to their home country and the assignment ended. So everyone was losing on this. The expat, but as well the organization, because the assignment was early terminated.
And the one who benefits, or for whom it doesn't matter, the success of the expat assignment is the relocation provider?
Yeah, they were quite happy. They were getting their money, but it got terminated earlier for them as well. So I think it's not so good. But at the moment, they have still, this organization has still not changed relocation provider, despite getting various feedback that expats were unhappy. And for me, I don't see the point. Expats are the one benefiting from the service. If at some point they realize that something is going wrong, you need to step in as HR and challenge the provider and maybe switch providers.
I think it's quite difficult. I think it's indeed the power in this whole mobility comes into picture the most. In HR, like as you said, if they know expats are not happy, what could be the reason of not acting on it?
They don't have time. It's difficult for them to step in because they are far away and they don't really realize what's going on. And they rely on the feedback from the relocation provider. And sometimes they get what they call a global contract with a provider.
Mhm.
And if they want to change for India, for example, it means that they need to change the contract on a worldwide basis. And it means too much work for them. So they try to postpone everything as much as they can.
It's complex. Sounds quite complex. Now, in this international HR, does it affect every day in countries, like schooling, housing, and social integration?
For example, I gave you about Indonesia, the way we manage the assignment, where we decide the employee will be based, where the family will be based, obviously we have an impact into the housing and the schooling.
Yeah.
And for me, when you get a family and when you get kids, getting the continuity of education is important. And that's why, for example, in this case, I suggested for them to stay in Jakarta, but the kids can go to the international school to continue their studies, because in Pekan Baru, it would be very difficult for them to continue their study properly. Even online, it's not necessarily suitable for kids just to get their courses online. So we always consider this. You get some companies for which this kind of topic are very, very important because they are very much well-being and, let's say, employee-centric focused. While some companies, they will consider it, but not too much, and they don't, for them, if they consider it too much, it creates a constraint, and they don't want too much constraints. They just want to focus on business. So it really depends on your employer HR strategy about this business.
It's funny, right? We're talking about the human resource, and it looks like there's a human connection just beyond contracts and benefits, which is missing. Do you agree to that? And more, when you look at all the assignments and how it is handled between the expat assignees and the companies, the human connection is not really seen as, it's always the contract and the benefits.
For some organization, moving expats, it's like moving boxes, to be honest. And some other organization are considering otherwise. So it depends how your organization is. For me, my choice is always either to get organization very much employee-centric, either to help them if they want to become employee-centric about global mobility. I'm happy to help, but I will never be working for a cost-cutting company, for example. I did in my past experience as a salary, as an employee, and this is why today I am an entrepreneur. I want to choose my client. I want to choose the people and the organization I help. I want to be sure that they want to do it for the right reason. Because sometimes, once at the beginning, I was having a contract with a client that used me, let's say, like a token to say, we try to make it more employee-centric because we are taking money. But at the end, about what I suggested, they did not want to set up anything of my suggestion and proposal. And they were just like saying to the board, we have appointed her, we are just more employee-centric now. But no action was taken. What's the sense?
Show on face.
So now I'm more careful about selecting my clients. I'm really checking if they are really ready to take action, because it's too easy to pay to get my advice and then to say to top management, okay, we are trying to more, let's say, employee-centric for global mobility because we have paid her, and I publish on a daily basis on LinkedIn about this topic, so I'm very visible. So I think people know now that I'm doing this. But if you are not ready to make any action, for me, I don't want to be paid just to say something and then to go it to waste. I really want to be sure that it will and set up.
I think it's great to kind of have somebody who stands with the employee and also the company for the benefit of both. And that doesn't happen often, that you see somebody from human resource. I mean, you see, but I'm sure you know much better than me.
I think sometimes as HR, we get a lot of pressure to be very much more on the organization side. For me, I'm more like we can mix the interests. It's just at me to consider all the interests and then define the best solution for everyone.
With that solution, right, what I've seen on the website, I came across one sheet which had 5 mistakes that can ruin your international mobility experience. And from that, there are so many things that one can learn and maybe will be tempted to connect with. And in that, what I saw was couple of points that I was really keen on knowing more. One is invisible work. For people who have supported partner abroad or paused their careers, the expat spouses, the trailing spouses, how do you help them recognize the value in this?
So very often, the experience as an expat partner or trading spouse is very different from one situation to another, from one country to another. Some countries you are authorized to work for your visa, some of you are not. So obviously, there's an impact into your capacity to continue your career into expat country. I'm always trying to define, for example, the other day, I got someone that was working on an NGO for almost 3 years, and she was not displaying into her resume. And I was like, why don't you say that you are involved in this NGO? You are going 1 day per week. And she was like, yeah, but it's just 1 day per week. And it's a lot, 1 day per week, and you are learning a lot, participating to say this NGO. You need to display it resume. And sometimes, you have stuff like that, or like expat partners, they don't realize that being an expat partner is a job by itself, where you acquire skills. You need to manage the logistic, manage the providers, to manage the relocation, to ensure that your kids are fitting into the new country, to ensure that everything is set up properly for everyone. You develop adaptability skills, intercultural skills as well, which are really on the ground. It's not just only on the book. So you need to display that and to work on that to make it like a real skill set that you can propose to your future employers or for your future entrepreneurial activity. So it's a kind of brainstorming work we do together, depending on the situation of the person, and then we identify the skill that makes sense to display as per our past work history and what she wants to develop as a next step for career perspective.
I think this is a huge thing. And I know a lot of ladies who are involved, again, not just an NGO, but some kind of a volunteer job, but they don't seem to find...
Everything matters.
Yeah, everything matters because you're really spending hours on something. And even if it is once a week, I think it still is hours. And I see not many clubs, expat clubs, right? They're looking into this as a point to add, as a badge to add in the file. And I'm not too sure why is it. Is it because that it's not recognized, or do you think there is no such blueprint where they can see that adding that experience gives them the benefit of going for a specific job or direction or something concrete? Maybe there's no blueprint.
I think they don't feel legitimate to do this.
Yeah.
And because it's not a concrete work experience, they don't put it into their LinkedIn or their resume. But sometimes those skills are coming from life, from experience you go through. And as recruiters, we just need to be able to see it and to understand what it has brought. It's true, some recruiters, they don't care. But some others, they really see the value. And this is what you should be focusing on, to highlight your value to recruiters for which what you bring can make a difference. So this is what I'm working on with people I help for this career, support. And as well, sometimes getting a real understanding of the country. For example, someone who has lived for 7 or 8 years in India, if one day they come back to France, they can be very nice advisors for organizations going to address India.
Exactly. Yes.
You have always some leverage. You just need to be creative, think about it, see what you can bring to an employer. But sometimes it's a very difficult exercise to be doing by yourself. And that's why getting someone external to help you with this assessment. And especially for me, I bring the added value that I can help and say, okay, focus on this because the recruiters will like it, so that people don't waste energy in something that will not be necessarily recognized. We need to be as well realistic about the, let's say, employment market, what skills are looked at as of today, what is just overlooked. So this is an added value to get an HR by yourself to help you to make this assessment.
This is a big thing because you are going beyond your role. I know your role is a human resource expert, but you're really beyond that to help people on the ground help this way, which is...
I think I've met so many people where I could see that just with the right help, they could get such a different life that I have decided, okay, if I can help people myself, I want to do it and to give them a chance to make the best of the expat adventure, depending on that.
With that, I would like to kind of really very briefly talk about our first meet and how you gave me a little nudge saying that, Sabia, you're onto something. Remember that in the cafe you said, what, I can feel it. The universe is here giving you the direction and we are here for a reason.
It's not random.
Crossing the path, right?
Yeah.
And that little nudge really makes you think going back home like, oh, maybe it is because you're not thinking that way. And it takes just one statement and that really, so thank you for that, really.
I'm happy to see that today everything is
Yeah,
set
you see
up
that, right?
Yes.
So in some way, I don't know if that little...
this little push sometimes.
Yeah.
And especially as women, sometimes we always believe, am I legitimate? Yes or no? Should I do it? Sometimes not taking any risk is already taking risk.
Yeah. Well, all the ladies there who are there as a trailing spouse and they think that they cannot really do anything with their experience, they should really get into volunteer jobs, whether it is an NGO or maybe even in schools the way I am doing. Put that in your LinkedIn. And if you don't know how to put in words and find the right words to express it, maybe you connect with Marie, because I'm sure she will help you. We've spoken a lot about expats, inbound assignees, also touched the point of outbound assignees, how important it is for them to get back to home country. How can returning professionals start identifying and measuring their value, especially when so much of their work abroad felt normal or hard to quantify?
It's quite easy. You can take your performance review assessment if it's with your organization. It's usually it's very formal and official, and even sometimes in some recruitment process, you can share this with recruiters to prove what's the impact you got through the organization, what were your duties, and it can be very nice. But I think my best recommendation will be to try maybe 1 year before going out, track all your KPIs and your achievements very accurately so that because if you do it afterwards, we don't always remember ourselves what we have done and what we have achieved, and especially if it's normal. While if you write it down later on, when you will reflect on it, you will realize this one huge and it was nice. And then you will be more able to market it for your next career move. My recommendation, if you are an expat and at some point you are being asked to come back home, don't just wait for the offer of your current employer. Try to investigate with other employers and try to see what will be your value, because it will be a good leverage for you to negotiate for your salary upon return. Because very often, return process, repatriation process, it's managed like last minute by HR.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily value the full experience of expatriation in terms of salary increase. If you get the comparison and the figure coming from another competitor or another potential employer, it can help you to negotiate a better salary upon return. And this is a nice step of leverage not to be missed, to my mind. Because yes, when we are an expat, we get a lot of benefits and it's nice. But it's good as well to transform this on a long-term value as well into your salary when you are repatriated back in your home country.
And is that something, a different package that you have as part of your...
Usually
Usually
they take, the salary before departure to come back to France, and then they include a bit of buffer. But the buffer is more or less a budget buffer. It's not a value you bring back to your home country buffer. And for me, this is where you need to change the storyline and the discussion. But sometimes they are very reluctant because they are budget restricted and they are like, oh, but we cannot do more, blah, 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 blah. And you've got already a lot of benefits as an expat. Now you come back as a local employee. We cannot get more than 10%. So that's why getting another offer or an idea of what a competitor will offer you, usually competitors, they totally recognize the value you got with such an huge experience abroad. And then sometimes it can bring a situation where you can say, okay, the competitor is offering me 20%. What do we do? And then suddenly, like magic, we find the 10% missing and you get a 20% salary. So it's an easy way to get a salary increase, knowing that when you are on board and you just are getting your salary revised through the salary review cycle, your leverage is lesser. So really the return timing for you is the best moment to negotiate better your salary. It's like if you are a new hire, they don't want to lose you. They have the risk to lose you, especially if you get an offer in hand with another competitor. They will make the effort.
That's a big tip from Marie. Yeah, it's a big tip.
I hope if you earn money with this tip, send me a message. I want to know how much you earned. I would be very happy to see the impact of this on people.
Yeah, I'm sure that is the reason why we are doing the podcast, because we've spoken so much about expat life, and now we move on to the more deeper layer of global mobility, and to see as part of human resource why that needs to be considered, why organization like with my expat compass needs to be considered, what you offer as part of your services, and how it impacts your the whole assignment and the success of the assignment.
But just to note that you need to be aware, Sadia, is that this year I've been contacted by some employers that are ready to pay me for me not to advise their employees.
That tells something.
Yeah, that tells something. They want to be, yes. So for now, I'm curious. So I'm just running the negotiation to see how much they are ready to pay, because I'm very curious. I don't want to do it, but for me, it means it's a real message, because they know that obviously I'm giving the power to the expats in terms of negotiation. I get so much.
I hope that it goes well and it doesn't go in a massive clash. But yeah.
But at the moment, just to be transparent, if I'm advising an HR client, I'm not advising their employees, obviously. During my assignment and in the 2 years after the end of my assignment, so that to keep everyone comfortable with.
Yes.
But yes.
Well, now we're coming to the last question. If you could redesign the entire international HR landscape from scratch, what would it look like, and who would benefit most from that vision?
We should get professionals that really know what it is to be expat.
Yes.
And from the moment they really understand what it is, I think their assessment, the way they manage global mobility would be totally different. And the way employees benefit from global mobility would be totally different as well. And I'm just hoping, and that's why I'm publishing a lot on LinkedIn. I have an Instagram account, I have a newsletter where I publish a lot for HR, and I'm trying to open the window for them about my travels. For example, I'm writing a newsletter at the moment about my trip to India. I want to show them what being on the ground brings. And I want to tell them, okay, maybe you cannot be an expat, but you need to go on the ground on a regular basis to see what is needed and to see the reality. And I'm just hoping with time, over time, HR, we realize that, okay, going on the ground, it's not only a cost, it's something that brings value for you to be a better professional, but as well for the organization overall and the people, obviously.
But yeah, it's very important to have an HR person actually having an experience of expat life.
Yeah. And as an HR, managing expatriates, we know very much about the personal life of the people we manage, because obviously family, personal life is tied with the expatriation. So we know about the family members. Sometimes we know when the kids are a bit sick, depending on the disease they have, because we need to be able to help them to get the proper medication. So we know many details that as a regular HR, with a regular employee, we don't necessarily know. And at the same time, we need to be able to accompany them with unexpected events that can happen during an expat. For example, falling sick. 2 times in my life, I had to manage death of the expats and to manage the repatriation of the body to the home country, to help the family to manage the tricky moment of the passing and the logistic behind. We need as well, when someone in their close relative is either sick or dying. We need to manage, a quick trip for them to be able to come back to their home country and to spend this necessary time and to adjust sometimes, get some remote working. So we are very much involved in that. And that's why for me, I believe that because I have lived myself, I'm really more understandable and maybe more proactive. And I hope that one day it would be mandatory for a global mobility expert to get 1 or 2 years abroad to be really with a stamp expert, because at the moment it's just technical skills, but it's not the experience by itself.
That is deep. I just pictured, although it is really something that I hope nobody goes through that, but yeah, it's just really hard. But well, that's Murray for you. With so many insights and tips and advices and the whole detail behind the scenes that we have learned from you. It has been really a meaningful episode for me on the podcast for season 3. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you also had a good time talking about your experience, your journey, and what you offer.
Yes, and I think we can wrap it up with the fact it's true. We met 2 years ago, but what I think it's important to explain to the audience is that it's through a connection. I don't remember exactly who gave me your contact number, but you need to realize as well that the expat world, it's a huge community that can bring a lot of opportunities. And the good point as well is that we very much support each other because we know what we are going through.
Yes.
And we need to use this because this community has such a big power to create opportunities, to be supportive. And I think it's with what you are doing as well through the podcast, you are helping in this, Sadia. So I'm so happy to see that, yes, you were really, really at the preliminary stage when we discussed each other, and now it's live, it's running. So I'm so happy, and I'm wishing you all the best for the next episode.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming all the way and giving your time, because your time is quite crucial. You're not somebody just to kind of hang out with friends coming all the way from France and India. And knowing that, okay, in your schedule, you gave few hours.
It was planned, since June.
But still, it is privileged, right? You feel privileged because the insights that you gave, it is more of an expert insights. And to have that, I feel really
I hope it will be thank you very much.
And for the audience who would like to know Marie's work so far and her journey, the services that she's offering, please check out her website with myexpatcompass.com. And the link to Marie's social handle will be shared on the screen right now and also in the description. Thank you so much.